Collective, hello, my loves. Welcome to Vivid Vibration. My name is Christina. I hope that y'all are doing well. Collective, today we got embrace self-compassion. I love that because, truly, right, you can only love others as much as you love yourself. You can only show compassion in it for others in as much as you are able to show it for yourself. I feel like, there was a point in time in my life where I was very sheltered. And I recognized the resentment that I experienced outside of my community toward my ignorance, right? Toward my privilege, toward my inability to understand injustice, because I was too busy being coddled by like the life that I was in. Now, do I think it's wrong that I experienced that life? No, I'm very grateful for that opportunity, but I do know that when I set out with an intention to understand like where that was rooted, what it was rooted in. And I got a very rude awakening of the world in which we live. The world is not compassionate. The world is not logical. The world is not kind. The world is aggressive. The world is shady. The world will lie, and it will sell you on a story while, okay, so here's some like awful thing that keeps going around, but it's been in conversations forever. But they did a DNA test on the hamburger meat, and they found that there were 1,300 strands of DNA, and that human DNA was a part of that mass amount of DNA discovered. Where do they put all the bodies? The people that are trafficked, the people that are lost. Where do they all go? And then you bring into the idea, like slave labor and like the people who are dying, in the detention centers. Yes, it is now legal that if you speak Spanish in public, you can be thrown in a detention center. How's that for dramatic? When people claim that racism isn't real, I just want to punch them in the face. And that's real. Because what ignorance, what gross belligerence to remain ignorant of the reality of the world that we exist in. Belligerent acts of privilege, There's a reason most of the world can't stand you. And it's a really solid reason, too. Privilege is the most putrid smell. And it's an argument that I think comes up that as a trigger for a lot of people, because we, like most of us, exist in a world that is surrounded with what is privilege at this point. And the cities around the world that are fighting it, and the superiority of the ones who don't take on the battle, the arrogance of the ones who scoff at it. But when you are the one who has been victimized by a world, the last thing that world will show you is compassion. The last thing they will exhibit is kindness. The last thing they will demonstrate is logic. So you have to start with you. You have to start with opening your eyes. You have to start with showing yourself compassion. Whether you've been physically abused, sexually abused, mentally abused. You can't exist in this society and not be mentally abused. You know what I mean? It's not possible, and it's very probable that you've also been socioeconomically abused, because it's race right now, but it's also socioeconomics. They're also imprisoning homeless people. That like the war against humanity is very much alive. And the sad fact of the matter is that those who are caught in that war have to not only fight on their own behalf, but exhibit compassion on their own behalf too. Not only fight against the hatred, but practice self-love. The dichotomy that we've been set up in is one that is situated to ensure failure. And it's held in place by privileged people who just think that they are somehow above it all, that somehow they can get away with being hateful, fear-mongering, racist, ignorant people. And it's just gonna bypass them. Somehow they're above it spiritually or above it financially. But the tables will turn. They'll really turn. They'll actually turn. Not just a glimpse of what it's like to have the tables turned. Because the war is already amongst the people. Okay, we got a bunch. Ooh. Girl. Love this card. I don't think we've gotten the Queen of Swords before. Fan-fucking-tastic. Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, that is like an Illuminati, but it's over one eye, and this is over both eyes with the awakening of the... It's different, but yes, I hear you. Okay, let's see what all we have. The Seven of Wands, the Page of Swords, we get the Page of Swords a lot. The Queen of Swords, Ten of Wands, the Four of Pentacles, the Eight of Pentacles, and the Lovers. Let's start with the Seven of Wands because that's the only wands. No, that's not true. We have two Pentacles, two Wands, two Swords, and the Lovers. Let's start with the Wands, shall we? The Seven of Wands. Oh, she's got her little firefox with her. This is another card of conflict because in the Wands we experience the impetuous energy of fire that ignites and sometimes challenges us. Yet this is also a card of pride and strength, for it is the card that pertains to your core values. Here you encounter what you believe in and what moves you. You can see it shining brightly in your heart. Sometimes you need to take a radical stand to take charge and defend your position. This is the card of activism, representing those who are not afraid to speak their mind or those who find at last the courage and opportunity to stand up for what they believe in. It gives space and a voice to those with less privilege. It invites you to dismantle the privileges you possess by standing along those with less agency, becoming their voice. Support those you can through small or large actions. Let your light shine as a guide for everything you believe in. Say less. The Ten of Wands reaches in excess. We are inside the fire suit. What happens when we lose control of this element? The situation can get out of hand, just as it does in this card. You wanted to do too much, and now you can't keep anything in check anymore. It is the card of overwhelm, which is also called burnout. Something has gotten out of control. The fire has flared up, and only if we abandon something else can we move forward. It is not possible to always say yes. This card can refer back to the Emperor and his ability to set boundaries. The lesson to be learned is this: sometimes saying no allows us to gain something more, even if we initially think we will lose it. Holding on to the unnecessary weighs us down. Letting go means making room for what is to come. It is a good time to take stock and stop giving our personal energy away. Yeah, I mean, truly, like what side of the fence are you on? The side of privilege and ignorance, or the side of passion and purpose? And it's a very, very, very big line that is in dark marker, permanent marker. And well, yeah, I mean, like energetically speaking, absolutely, absolutely, it is. There's no middle ground with that. Um, and you can carry the burden of your privilege and fight against humanity. But look in the mirror and see who you are. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. Four of Pentacles. Traditionally, the Four of Pentacles doesn't get a very positive interpretation. The illustrated figure keeps all her treasure to herself. It might seem like a card related to selfishness. Contemporary society teaches us that we must share, give, and make ourselves available at all times. Yet we know well that having no boundaries, keeping nothing for oneself, restricts one from being able to give. What if generosity comes from self-care? Yes, that's it. The embrace self-compassion. Until you are able to open your eyes to your issues and show compassion to yourself, you will never be able to show compassion to others. If you're busy running around demanding to speak to the managers and demanding your rights be met while the rest of the world is burning down around you, the world will turn on you and it will burn you to the ground. We are looking at a war. We are looking at wars everywhere. Everywhere there are wars. If you think that you're going to escape a war, I really don't know what to tell you. You know what I mean? I really don't. And I'm not even I'm not sitting on a throne touting, threats. Like, this is just have you watched anything that's going on around the world? Have you made yourself aware of what's happening? Do you care? Or are you just concerned with salacious gossip and privilege that is so grossly insulting to the world that association with you would be like death, like a spiritual death, because that's how rotten you are? Not you specifically in the general sense, you and the people who exhibit such privileged ignorance that they concern themselves with battles that are so useless. That they need to be stomped out. And yes, it is vital that in the face of all of these battles, we practice self-compassion, we practice self-love, we practice boundaries, we practice self-respect, because you're not going to get it from the world. The world's going to try and rob you 10 ways to Tuesday. And they're going to do it by exerting their privilege. Won't that be fun? Repetition does not always equate to boredom. In the Eight of Pentacles, we discover the insight. Well, yeah, because repetition is practice. Repetition is mastery. And I feel like there's this mastery of self, this mastery of self-love, this mastery of self-respect, this mastery of self-compassion. Because be the change that you wish to see in the world. But choose the problem. You know what I mean? Yeah. Well, an enemy of change, an enemy of progress, an enemy of potential, an enemy of destiny, an enemy of truth, an enemy of light, an enemy of love, an enemy of sincerity, an enemy of all things holy. The Knight of Swords knows exactly what she wants, and she channels all her energy into getting it. Her only problem is that the focus on the goal causes her to lose sight of the big picture, making her unaware that her actions may be trampling on someone else. I do feel like that is the issue with privilege, that it's so singularly focused on its goal that it has no care for the safety and security of the ones that it stampedes over to achieve its goal. Now let's discuss the idea of destiny swapping and how many people they're willing to sacrifice to swap destinies. Let's take the idea of white supremacy and the way that they're willing to manipulate the laws and the rules. Domestic abuse isn't bad. Men should just be able to beat their wives and marry their daughters. If you speak Spanish, you can be detained by ICE and thrown in a detention center just for being brown and speaking Spanish. Just for being brown, let's be honest. And likely just for speaking Spanish, because that makes you an ally, right? And it's not safe to be an ally. Who wrapped that danger? Whose danger is that? Fucking Stockholm Syndrome. Queen of Swords. We are in the presence of the Queen of Swords. She has gone through many great hardships, perhaps all those that we have encountered in this suit, and today is a strong, wise, and clever person. She has managed to learn from her experiences, and her scars are certainly valuable. Her eyes are clear and lucid. She says things exactly as they are and how she imagines them, and she is not afraid to come across as too harsh. Her self-deprecation makes her soft, and her fervent mind enables her to envision other possible worlds. Spending time with her conveys the privilege of knowledge. From her, you can learn a great deal about alliances, but perhaps not too much about friendships, which are harder for her to maintain because they require commitment. She prefers to be engaged with her ideals and with those people who share them. Yeah, that's true. Because, when you are talking in terms of a new world, right? When you are discussing the reality of the war that we exist in, people sometimes they get focused in one idea, right? And they don't have like a concept of all of it, and the significance that all of it bears, because there are facets of all things that prove beneficial, right? Diversity is the essence of creation. And what has been sought out, what is currently being sought out, what has been sought out historically is one race, one. It's like the Tower of Babel, right? That's the story behind it, is the idea of oneness, right? But there's danger in oneness, because that is the destruction of diversity. And so it is vital that we have many different forms of community, many different forms of practices, many different forms of understanding, because without those diverse, without the presence of those levels of diversity, you stomp out like the heart of creation. And it is only when these groups are able to embody those senses of self-compassion and self-love and self-respect and self-discipline and boundaries, when they are able to exert the strength of who they are, in the purest form of who they are, that they are able to come together to create a liberation that holds space for diversity. you can't remove diversity from creation. And the only ones who seek to do that are the ones who seek to take ownership of the role of creator. High level swapping, if you will. The levers is a choice. And I think a lot of people are being faced with a choice. What side do you stand on? Why do you stand on it? What do you stand for? What do your actions say about your level of privilege and ignorance? How do you plan on impacting any kind of change? What's your vision? What are your goals? Yeah, because I mean, like, the reality of it is that everything's shifting. And we're in a war whether we want to acknowledge it or not. We're in a spiritual war, whether you want to acknowledge it or not. I think the people who are in this spiritual world who don't want to acknowledge the fact that we are in a spiritual war are the ones who, the tables are going to be flipped on, because they're the ones who embody the mockery of their privilege. Their ignorant words, their ignorant deeds, their ignorant acts. They fall shy of serving as anything other than a pest, right? So you exterminate the pests. Which is aggressive. It's aggressive, but I think it's the point behind it all is to cling to privilege. The point behind it all is to cling to status. But like the spiritual world doesn't care about your social status. In fact, I think that'll be, it's like, that'll be the very thing that destroys you. Your own name and your own act of betrayal and a spiritual war for humanity. Because all you care about is clout. I don't know who this is for. Well, and maybe it's for the ones who need to be empowered to call a spade a fucking spade. Like maybe it's for the ones who are just scared. What are you afraid of exactly? Who are you afraid of exactly? And why are you afraid? Who put that fear in your heart? Who put the gun in your hand and told you to go march in the streets? What rhetoric did they use to convince you that that was the right thing to do? These are real questions, real consequences. I think there are a lot of people who are going to find that they are having to turn their backs on a lot of mentalities, a lot of people, communities, family, friends. I feel like see your way out, see your way up, see your way into a balance that doesn't make you question what side of the war you're on. I don't know why. It's like when I think of like the tables flipping, I think of like a bar fight almost. And this person with this like little pink pistol shooting their guns, and then the table flips and there's a fucking Uzi. Like if you come to like all is fair in love and war, you're right. Truly. You should have thought of that before you started to engage in a war. You know? You should have thought of that before you decided to protect ignorance and privilege. You should have thought of that before you locked yourself in the detention center of disillusion. What a lie of wisdom. Six of Swords. Yeah, there was this reel. One of the guys that does like Ask AI, which, you know, I read an article and they were talking about, you know, like the developers of AI, and they were like, you know, it's really interesting to me that people think that AI, it has to tell the truth. It doesn't. Now, how much of that is planted fear versus reality? You know, I'm sure that more will uncover itself as we progress. But, you know, the magnitude of everything that is occurring right now isn't small. It and the idea of choice. I don't know what choice to make. Then you've already made your choice. Knight of Swords, the Hierophant. I mean, that's action with wisdom. Right? Because the wisdom of the world is the foolishness of God. You know? Do you know? You know? Queen of Clovers, Six of Hearts, Ten of Hearts, Seven of Diamonds. Queen of Clovers. Wine is the symbol of cheerfulness and gaiety. The house denotes success in all ventures. If present condition is unpleasant, the future will be happy and prosperous. Also predicts marriage. Bouquet and flowers, an absolute indication of a long and happy life. If children are nearby, extraordinary honors and fame. Flames on the hearth indicate good fortune and neutralizes the evil of near-lying unlucky cards and increases the value of lucky ones. Well, you know, I just, like make good decisions. Practice an awareness that isn't afraid to like call corruption into question. Um, Pull your phone out, film the ICE agents that are taking your neighbors. Get their license plate, show up at the detention centers, storm the White House, do whatever needs to be done. What is it? Where was it? Somewhere they burned the government building down. They were like, Gen Z rolled up. Like we are already at war. Wake up. Recognize the motivation of the ones who you seek wisdom from. Seek your truest self. Are you acting on behalf of social status? Are you acting on behalf of privilege? Are you exhibiting every sign of being on the wrong side while throwing rocks, saying you have to let me in, while you continue to herd anyone and everyone you can into the chambers of illusion? Do you think that you will guise your foolishness as wisdom and do anything other than lock yourself in that prison? Like those are choices that we have the right to make. Those are choices that as individuals, you are the captain of your own ship. Don't be so singularly focused on something that serves as the demise of others and in turn the demise of yourself. Right? Like, let's be smart. It's a good idea. Okay, well, that was interesting, I guess. If it does resonate with you, please do give me a like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much for spending some time with me and sharing your energy with me. If this does resonate, please do give me a like, share, and subscribe. And I will see y'all again soon. Bye.